and to see them, these young women now confident and standing strong and saying, you know, I've now got a job, I've found my place to live, I can live independently, and I'm really excited about my future.
Hello and welcome to the 6th instalment for our Let's Talk About It series. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name's Homs, and Let's Talk About It is basically an educational series for you guys to help get into some of the more complicated discussions and topics around modern slavery and human trafficking. Last week we had an awesome conversation from Antonia and Derege talking about family reintegration and unifying families, and this week we have Maggie Cruz, who is our Cambodia country director for Hope for Justice, talking with us now. How are you doing, Maggie? You all right?
Yeah, great, thanks Homs.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is at Hope for Justice and sort of how you got there, essentially?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been the country director in Cambodia now for the last nearly 3 years, and prior to that I was actually in Derege's neck of the woods. I worked in Ethiopia and also in our Ugandan project for many years, so I've come very much from a background of helping very vulnerable children who've been exploited, trafficked and abused, and helping them to find safe space and get back to family and all that sort of thing. And yeah, I've been in Cambodia now, and the context is completely different, but of course some of the core issues sadly are the same. Girls being exploited, being trafficked is very common, and we have a program there specifically to help kids who are under 18 to get safe place and then look to the future after they've come through a time of being stabilised after all they've been through.
Can you give us a sort of broad understanding of what the Lighthouse is, what it aims to achieve, and what happens after that?
Sure. Okay, so girls come to us through a variety of different ways. Some girls come to us where police have done a raid on a beer garden, karaoke bar, brothel, whatever, and they've actually done an active rescue and rescued those girls out of that situation, and hopefully also arrested the perpetrators and the owners of those establishments. And so we have a very close link with the government Ministry of Social Welfare, who link us up when there's been a rescue like that, and we work closely together with the police, with local other partners, NGO partners, and we've got a big centre there where we can take between 25 and 30 girls at any one time, and that's they come to us immediately after that rescue. Not in a good place, as you might imagine, and there we can offer them safe space, all the basics of daily life. You know, we can give them a change of clothing, good food, but more critically attend to their medical needs, which are often complex and multiple. They obviously need a lot of psychological care. The girls come to us very traumatised, often. Surprisingly often very angry and upset. They don't understand what's happened to them. They've been plucked out of their exploitation and suddenly confronted with being in this space with strangers, and it takes a little while for them to comprehend that actually what's been done to them is actually against the law. Wow. And so even that process of them having to come to terms with the fact that, you know, they've been in a situation where that's actually against the law of Cambodia, and the police have come in to get them out of that. They often take quite a while to come to terms with that. And then it's coming to terms also, of course, with what they've actually been through. Often that's been surrounded with a whole lot of false promises and lies and very complicated relationships. And, these young kids are often, anywhere particularly between 12 and 16, 17, and they're trying to process all of that and figure out which way's up. They've been disconnected from family. There's just multiple layers of trauma and abuse and exploitation, sometimes over years. And so working with our counsellors and psychologists to try and stabilise these girls and work to get their mental health in a better shape. But of course, we're also trying to find their family, contact their family, find out, is it possible to get that girl home again? At the same time, they've also got a legal case going on where they're having to testify in front of police, and that's also very traumatic. They're having to relive that experience, give testimony to the police about what's happened, maybe identify a perpetrator. So that's also, we try and minimise it, but that's also traumatic for them to go through that. So there's many different aspects. I kind of refer to the Lighthouse a bit like a one-stop shop where we have a whole range of services, and the good part about that is that we can do that all under one roof. We have nurses, teachers, counsellors, psychologists, case managers and social workers, house mums to care and love these girls daily and make sure all their daily needs are looked after. We have a whole team of support around these girls so that they can hopefully stabilise and find the way forward.
Yeah. And how is that for you? I mean, for you and the staff, obviously, to sort of deal with that?
Well, yeah, it's a big thing for our staff as well. They're in a situation where they're constantly hearing stories of trauma and just extreme emotional events for these young girls, and so we also have to make sure that we're caring for our staff. It's tough work, and having time to talk through cases together and support each other and making sure staff are doing their own self-care is also really important.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd like to maybe ask you, for anybody who doesn't know, at what stage does the Lighthouse come in to help, and then at what stage do we, send them off, leave them, essentially?
Yeah, yes, I mean, usually we work in close collaboration, as I said before, with some other partner organisations, with the Ministry of Social Welfare, with local police and immigration as well. We often get child victims who've been trafficked to other countries, and so we work closely also with immigration and the ministry when there's a Cambodian girl who's being brought back into the country after being trafficked to another country. So we get notified sometimes in advance. Sometimes it's like literally an hour or two beforehand.
Gosh.
Suddenly they'll just ring up and say, oh, we've got a young girl here. Can you come and pick her up, or can we bring her to you? And yes, how long is she in the Lighthouse? Well, how long's a piece of string a bit? We try and tailor that program to the unique needs of that girl. Now, some kids remarkably show a level of resilience that is astounding and seem to bounce back reasonably quickly, and maybe within 2 or 3 months they're looking to be ready to move to next steps. Other girls, if they've got a lot of mental health issues, medical issues, legal case, whatever, maybe they're with us for 4 or 5, sometimes longer months. We call it a short-term centre. We don't want it to be like institutional care where the girls are like in an orphanage type of situation. It's a transitional program where the kids are assessed. We give whatever therapy and medical and legal help and support they need, at the same time tracing their family and preparing and working with the family to hopefully get that child back home wherever possible. It's kind of several months for most girls. That would be the average.
At what point does the Lighthouse sort of leave young girls at? Is there anything else that comes in after the Lighthouse? Yeah,
sure. So, I mean, we feel very strongly that, particularly for children, safe family is always the best place for these young girls. If safe family is not an option, and sadly that can be the case if the family have been the ones who've trafficked the girl or exploited the girl, maybe family is not safe, or maybe stuff has happened and too much has happened, and the young person, particularly once you're looking at a 16, 17-year-old, they're like, I just can't go home. So what do we then look at? If we can't get a child back to safe family, we then start working with that young person going, okay, what other options have we got? Have they got educational that we can link back in with? Are they interested to pursue education? If not, maybe they are looking for vocational training and developing some kind of skill set so that they can find safe employment. These girls have basically been in extremely unsafe employment in a bizarre way. And so what can we do to help that young person develop some skills to move into safe employment, safe living in the community, equip them with the kind of skills that they'll need to live independently, and particularly the kind of sort of soft skills to maintain employment. the life skills they'll need to live independently in the community, all of those sorts of things, so that hopefully they can get to the point where they can make safer decisions, think through the consequences of what they're being confronted with. If an opportunity comes for a job or a boyfriend or a whatever in normal life, can they make a safe decision and make sure that they're looking after themselves and not being re-exploited? One of the key things we're looking at is that we don't want these girls to go back into re-exploitation after all they've been through. So we've got a particular program that we launched just at the beginning of 2021 actually, that's particularly designed for these older age group girls who are 16 plus. So under the government structure, once a girl's 16 years and over, she can start to move towards vocational training. So we call this little program our Stepping Stones program, as they take their steps towards independence. And we've got a small house. The lighthouse is quite a secure environment, but for these girls who've been through that process, are stable and their mental health is stable, and they have to have quite a checklist of different criteria and things that they've accomplished during their time at Lighthouse. And then once they've done that, we work with them to find out what are they actually passionate about, what are they interested in for the future, is there a particular skill that they'd like to learn or a particular job. So maybe they've got an interest in doing salon and hairdressing, or maybe it's tailoring and creating clothes. Maybe it's working in the restaurant industry, or learning how to. We've got connections with a bakery and a barista training and different things. So trying to match up their interest, their skill level, their educational level, so that they can find the type of training that they can really kind of get into and feel that they can really move ahead with that.
It's amazing that with the stepping stones that you kind of bridge this gap between kind of meeting them where their immediate needs are, and then outside of that into the hopes and dreams that they have for their life beyond the lighthouse.
That's right. Yeah, and it these girls, as they move from the lighthouse, then we've got a little semi-independent living house that's only got one staff member in it, and that's kind of like a house mum type role, where the girls are living semi-independently. They can move in and out freely. They go off, or they ride their bicycles off to their vocational training every day. They learn to go to the market and do shopping, cooking, all the things that normally they would learn at home. We try and replicate that so that they can learn those same skills to become independent in the community. And they move through the program, finish the training, and then we give them a window of 3 months or so to find a job, find somewhere independent to live. And we mentor and coach them through all that process, and then comes the day when they kind of graduate. And we have a little ceremony to mark a very special time for them as they move from the semi-independent house then out to their own independent living, and we mark that with a little party and really celebrate the success really that they've had to be able to move into that next step of being really living freely and independently in the community again.
Amazing. Final question, because I know we've got to wrap up. So can you tell us just one of the most impacting moments for you personally with the Stepping Stones program? What has been one of the most sort of touching stories for you?
Oh gosh. I guess there's a lot, but I think I think of some of the girls that we've seen who've actually gone through that little graduation ceremony, and having them as they do that and they hold their certificate up, and we ask them, where do you think you would be if you hadn't gone through this program? And they just like, I would still be in a terrible place. I would still be exploited. I would still be lost and abused, and to see them, these young women now, confident and standing strong and saying, I've now got a job, I've found my place to live, I can live independently, and I'm really excited about my future. When you compare that to these frightened, scared, sad, mad, bad girls who come into the lighthouse first and are so lost and have they can't even think about tomorrow, let alone their future. and then you've got this young person standing tall and proud and ready to hit the ground running with her new job and living independently. That's a wonderful thing to see. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maggie, for jumping on and talking with us today.
Yeah, great.
Really appreciate it.
Lovely. Been great to chat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a like, give it a share, and we'll see you in the next one.